It's on right now.
Yep, now you are.
No, I forget which ones we're using.
Mics. Yeah,
these stay on,
when
right?
you turn them on.
All right, good evening, everyone. I will call to order the September 20, 2023 Lower Saucon Township Council meeting. Mark, please call the roll.
Mr. Bononis?
I'm here.
Mr. Carochi?
Here.
Ms. DeLeon?
Here.
Mr. Engels?
Here.
Ms. Sugar?
Here.
Everyone's here.
All right. Please stand and pledge the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, council did meet in executive session tonight. Before we get into that, I'm going to make a motion that we move up items 3A and B. 3A is resolution number 59-2023, remembering John Kalinich for his dedicated service to Lower Saucon Township, and also introduction of junior council persons for the 2023-2024 school year.
I'll second.
Mark?
Mr. Bononis?
Yes.
Mr. Carochi?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon?
Yes.
Mr. Engels?
Yes.
Ms. Sugar?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, so the first item we have tonight is an item that I share again with a heavy heart. This is a resolution 59-2023 remembering John Kalinich regarding his dedicated service to Lower Saucon Township. As many of you may know, Mr. Kalinich had died shortly before our last council meeting. We had recognized him with a moment of silence. He was a dedicated servant to the township. He worked and volunteered for Lower Saucon Fire Rescue, and regrettably he passed away after responding to a call on behalf of the township. I had attended his memorial service. It was a few weeks ago at Polk Valley Park. I thought that the Lower Saucon Fire Rescue personnel put together an excellent memorial for him. I'd like to thank them for their service and for their efforts in putting together that event. It was really a moving event, and I was thoroughly impressed with the brotherhood that existed among all the members of the fire services and emergency services. There were fire services people that were there from a number of different counties: Bucks County, Lehigh County, obviously Northampton County, and as far away as Schuylkill County. And they showed up in solidarity for one of their fallen brothers, and it was really remarkable to see the coordinated effort in the way that they held out their hearts for John, his memory, and their family. So with that, I'd like to share the resolution that we have that's been prepared, and I'd like to present that to John's family. This is Lower Saucon Township, Northampton County, Pennsylvania, Resolution 59-2023, a resolution honoring John P. Kalinich for his dedicated service to Lower Saucon Township, whereas John P. Kalinich was a dedicated member of Lower Saucon Fire Rescue as safety officer and was the former deputy chief of the Catasauqua Fire Department. And whereas John started his career as a firefighter and emergency medical technician in the late 1980s, he was a life member of Hanover and Bethlehem Township Volunteer Fire Companies, served Lehigh County Emergency Management as the former chief of special operations, technical rescue and hazardous materials response, and director of emergency management. John also worked part-time with the Lehigh County District Attorney's Office assigned to the Municipal Emergency Response Team and was co-owner of M&J Outdoor Services. And whereas John was previously a member of the FEMA Urban Search and Rescue, USAR Team, PA Task Force 1, and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's Emergency Management, USAR, as a member of PA Company 3. And whereas John, as a leader in the field, was extremely passionate, dedicated, and highly respected, shared his experience and knowledge with others, and whereas Lower Saucon Fire Rescue and the township are saddened by the sudden line of duty death of a friend and firefighter who made an everlasting impact on those who were fortunate to know him and gave so much back to the community that he loved. And whereas in addition to his parents, Paul and Pauline, he is survived by his sons, Andrew and Dylan, along with their mother, Jacqueline, his significant other, Jennifer, with whom he resided, sister Rebecca and her husband, David, grandfather, Kenneth, along with nieces, his aunt, uncles, and an expected blessing due in October. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Council of Lower Saucon Township, Jason Bononis, President, Mark Ingalls, Vice President, Priscilla De Leon, Thomas Carochi, Sandra Yerger, Council members, hereby honor the memory of John Kalinich for his devotion and service to the Lower Saucon Fire Rescue and the residents of Lower Saucon Township, adopted and enacted this 20th day of September 2023. Lower Saucon Township, Jason Bononis, Council President, attest Mark L. Hudson, Secretary. I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 59, 2023, with our heartfelt condolences to the family and thanks, the deepest thanks for all that was provided to us in not just Lower Saucon, but throughout the whole Lehigh Valley.
I'll second.
I guess we'll all second it to be
Okay.
respectful.
I was gonna say, it doesn't matter.
Put all down. Put all down. Mr. Croce, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon?
Yes.
Mr. Engels?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger?
Yes,
Mr. Bononis?
Yes.
Motion passes.
If everyone would stand, please, and just offer a round of applause for John and his family. They really have gone through some hard times here, and I would like them to understand the respect.
That's really sad.
It is. He was young.
And before we move on from that item, we have with us today Lower Saucon Fire Rescue Chief Ty Johnson, and if he could share some comments with us.
There we go. Hi, good evening. I'd like to thank the township for presenting the family with this resolution. It means a lot to them and to the Brotherhood of the Fire Department. And I want to give my thanks on behalf of Lower Saucon Fire Rescue, the Cownage family, and Catasauqua Fire Department. John was an outstanding person, not just an outstanding fireman. Anybody that came in contact with John knew that John was one of those guys that you were just going to make a lifelong friend with him. He was dedicated to the emergency services. He was a mentor to many. It didn't matter, you know, where you came from, who you were. If you were interested in emergency services, he was going to help you learn more. And John probably forgot more than most people know when it comes to emergency services. He just dedicated his life to it. So it's a big hole we got to fill in the fire department and in our personal lives, because John was a personal friend to many of us before he even came to Lower Saucon Fire Rescue. So again, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we have introduction of junior council persons for the 2023-2024 school year. We have 5 students who are interested in participating in the junior council person program. They're being recommended to council for appointments to the various boards. I'll share with you some information on each of those fine students. We have Rudra Thakkar. He's a senior at Saucon Valley High School. This is Rudra's 2nd year participating in the township council meetings. He really enjoyed his experience learning about how local government works. He was able to gain our deeper insight into some of the prevalent issues in the community. In his free time, Rudra enjoys playing sports, specifically basketball, and hanging out with friends. He enjoys traveling and has been blessed to visit many parts of the world. His favorite subject is math, and he hopes to study something engineering related in college. We also have Rudra's sister, Nitya Thakkar. She's a sophomore at Saucon Valley High School. Nitya was in the junior council program last year on the planning commission, and she really enjoyed council, seeing how everything happens behind the scenes, and is looking forward to participating in council this year. She's a volunteer at St. Luke's Hospital and is a member of the student council at her school. Her favorite subject is math, and in her free time, she enjoys listening to music and baking. So both Rudra and Nitya are interested in serving as junior council members to council. We also have Harry Visick, who is a sophomore at Moravian Academy. Harry is active in his school's business, debate, and environmental clubs, and recently founded the Finance and Economics Club. Additionally, he works closely with the Advanced Bionics as a mentor for kids with cochlear implants. He's looking forward to volunteering and engaging with the community. He's grateful for the opportunity to learn more about Lower Saucon Township and also making a contribution. He's lived here since 2012, and the township means a great deal to him, and he would like to help by positively impacting the place he lives and loves dearly. He feels it is important for young people like himself to have a voice and place in the community and governing entities. For Parks and Recreation, we have two students that are interested in serving. First is Cole Hubert. Cole is a junior at Saucon Valley High School. Cole attended a few council meetings as a member of the wrestling team and is also to support the Easton Road baseball field upgrade. He was made aware of the junior council program in a recent meeting. He found that meeting to be interesting, would like to learn more about how the township runs and to provide the student aspect with regard to Parks and Recreation. He's volunteered at Saucon wrestling tournaments, his sister's gymnastics meets, and roadside cleanup on Polk Valley Road. He likes spending time with his family and his friends. Cole's favorite subjects are math and science. He's a member of the Saucon Valley baseball and wrestling teams and enjoys lifting. Cole has lived in the township his whole life and enjoys outdoor activities like hunting and fishing. We also have Samuel Van Norman. Samuel is a sophomore at Saucon Valley High School. Samuel has lived in Lower Saucon Township his whole life and is a volunteer of Lower Saucon Fire and Rescue. He's a lifeguard and he offers swim lessons and also works. In addition, Samuel is also a Boy Scout and camp counselor. He would like to partake in the program to help the township in any way he can and also seeks a career as a council member later in life. So we certainly have 5 highly qualified students that are interested in this, and I will wholeheartedly make a motion to approve them as junior council persons for the 2023-2024 school year, with Nitya and Rudra Thakkar to serve on Township Council, Cole Hubert and Samuel Van Norman to the Parks and Recreation Committee, and also Harrison Visick to EAC.
Were there any other applicants? That was it? Thank you.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Sandy.
Ms. De Leon, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Engels?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger?
Yes.
Mr. Benonis?
Yes.
Mr. Croce?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, I would like to welcome Rudra, Nitya, Harry, Cole, and Samuel to your respective positions. You should follow up with, well, actually, let's get a photograph, right? Wonderful. Yeah, if we can get a photograph with you joining us on council and serving with the township, that would be great. And on behalf of the Township Council and all of the administration and staff, I'd like to welcome you and give you a wholehearted, warm welcome.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, go ahead, stand in the middle.
No, I should be.
No, you guys stand behind them. Stand behind the township.
Hey, you're.
Oh, good.
Please have some water.
You might want to stand on the outside, Priscilla.
There we go. There we go.
There you go.
I'll go this way. Towards you.
Did I forget to tell you it started at 6:30?
All right. All right, congratulations.
Congratulations, guys.
Yeah, thanks for joining.
You guys follow Stacy outside?
That's what I'm saying. Take out say bye.
That emptied the room.
All right, we're back to, back to the announcement of an executive session. As I noted earlier, council did meet this evening in executive session, and we also have potential action on executive session issues. So with that, council met in executive session to discuss two items. One was collective bargaining, and the other one was with regard to litigation. And I will share some details of that.
Yeah, it's collective bargaining with the police department.
Thank you.
And the litigation was library litigation and compost center litigation.
Can't hear you, Ling.
The litigation was library and compost center litigation. The collective bargaining was with the police association.
All right, so as we discussed in the executive session, there was a recent article that I read in Saucon Voice, that's voice.com, and the topic in that article is Hellertown Borough facing budget challenges heading into 2024. So apparently the Hellertown Borough Council had a meeting on September 5th, 2023, and they had undergone a financial audit for 2022 that was conducted by Zelenkowski Axelrod, certified public accountants, and Deborah Bacon, who's a principal, presented those findings. And the key findings that were noted were that the net position of the borough of Hellertown had decreased over $2 million during 2022, primarily due to an overall increase in expenditures in 2022. The borough also issued a general obligation note to finance a new public works building, and closing 2022, the borough had a total of over $1.9 million in outstanding debt. The key financial data that came out of that report is the following. Total revenues for the Hellertown Borough decreased more than $500,000, primarily due to more than $600,000 decreased in intergovernmental revenue. Public safety expenditures increased about $750,000. Public works expenditures decreased more than $250,000. I'm sorry, increased more than $250,000. Thank you. Culture and recreation expenditures increased almost $350,000, and their overall net position decreased by over $2 million. The notes payable increased almost $750,000, and further financial data that came out of that meeting was that their police pension trust fund showed a decrease to the fund's net position of close to $1.3 million that was attributed to sizable investment loss in 2022. During that meeting, Council President Tom Rieger there was a resignation that was submitted by a Public Works employee. Council President Tom Rieger moved to authorize the advertising of a replacement of that employee, and Council Member Andrew Hughes jumped in stating, just devil's advocate here, but I think we have some financial challenges. Public Works Manager Barry Yanni, who was in attendance, interrupted and asked to say something. He said, I need that person. You want this town to look the way it does. I need staff to do it. I know you're going to be talking about budgets, and I need that person. Council Member Liz Thompson added, I think we all agree that we're going to have to pull some things back. I don't agree that the Public Works is the place to do it. As much as I am in favor of saving our borough money, I'm not in favor of putting another one of our departments in a situation where there is burnout or resentment or more people leaving. So, with that background, we discussed today in executive session an offer to be made to the borough of Hellertown. And the offer is the following. 2 years of library funding at the amount of $125,000 per year, beginning on January 1, 2024. That would include proportional board seats beginning January 1, 2024, which would include amendment of the Hellertown Area Library bylaws to allow for that. State access cards effective January 1, 2024 for all Lower Saucon Township residents. A statement from the Borough of Hellertown regarding their funding levels over the next 5 years and where that will come from, and that would be due to us on or before October 31, 2023. And also a commitment from the Hellertown Borough to explore partnerships with larger libraries or creating an authority with Upper Saucon, Lower Milford Townships, and Coopersburg Borough. In addition to that, we would include in our offer to purchase the compost center property that is owned by the Hellertown Borough located within Lower Saucon Township, and to consummate that transaction by December 31st, 2023. The price of that would be the appraised amount that would be completed within the next 60 days. We would also agree that Lower Saucon Township would provide compost services to Hellertown Borough residents for a period of 10 years, subject to renewal, at a cost equal to what Hellertown Borough is currently charging Lower Saucon Township residents, and that would begin on January 1, 2024. We would also propose that Lower Saucon Townships would have access to the pool for the resident rate beginning in the 2024 season. As you know, or as you may not know, Lower Saucon Township residents would pay the resident rate at the gate when they would purchase a pass to the pool, and Lower Saucon Township would subsidize that with a payment at the end of the year based upon the number of signups. That supplement would go away, but Lower Saucon Township would make 2 capital contributions of $25,000 per year to support the pool in the years 2024 and 2025. Apparently, the pool needs a new liner, and the pool also had problems with the YMCA running it and finding staff, lifeguard staff, to allow the pool to remain open during the summer, which led to the rehiring of Ed Kolaski, who was a longtime operator of the pool and had done an excellent job with it. We would require a response within no later than October 12, 2023, and if that offer is not accepted, then it is automatically rescinded. Hellertown Borough has meetings with their library on September 28th, and they also have Borough Council meetings on October 2 and October 9 to consider this offer. Further, all parties would agree to drop all litigation among themselves, except for Lower Saucon Township's litigation against the Pennsylvania Office of Commonwealth Libraries for removing Lower Saucon Township from the service area in violation of OCL's policies that suggest that municipalities should be in a library service area for 10 years, and also for OCL's lack of due process in violation of the constitutional rights of Lower Saucon Township residents in this council. So those are the terms of what we discussed in our executive session. I'm going to make a motion to direct the solicitor and the township manager to immediately, no later than tomorrow, communicate the terms of that offer to Hellertown Borough and its solicitor, and invite their response no later than October 12, 2023, and if the offer is not accepted, then that it's automatically rescinded. The offer is extraordinarily generous. This council recognizes the need to move forward from these issues. Hopefully Hellertown Borough recognizes that as well. It's for the betterment of the community to resolve these issues and put them to rest, and hopefully clear minds will prevail on that issue. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mark.
Mr. Ingles, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Bononis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Croce, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon, how do you vote?
No.
Motion passes 4-1.
In addition to that, I would encourage that when the solicitor and manager have communications with Hellertown Borough, that they encourage Hellertown Borough to consider the financial cost to its taxpayers if they proceed in opposition to the landfill rezoning and expansion. Hellertown Borough uses the Bethlehem landfill for their municipal trash service. If they are to take their trash, if that landfill closes and they take their trash elsewhere, there's going to be added cost to the residents of Hellertown Borough. And I will point you back to our conversation that we had at the last council meeting, where South Whitehall Township put out for bid municipal trash service. And in response, the trash hauling contractor provided them with an increase of 62.5% increase in trash service bill. And the reason they cited was uncertainty as to where trash is going to go. So I hope that they'll consider that as part of their calculus when they're considering how they're proceeding in managing their affairs. I know that last year, Hellertown Borough, if I recall correctly, had incurred a 17% increase in trash hauling services without any change to the location of the landfill. And what they did was they softened the blow of that to their taxpayers by using American Relief Fund money to subsidize part of that 17%. Instead of passing along a 17% increase, they passed along a 10% increase, just masking the problem. So I would encourage the solicitor and the manager to share those details for consideration by Hellertown Borough and however they proceed in their course of conduct. Do I need a motion for that link? Okay. All right. Moving on to our next item. We have public comment, agenda items only, residents and taxpayers only, 3-minute time limit.
Shouldn't the residents have been able to comment on this motion that you just made? It's part of the, it was executive session, we made a motion, doesn't the sunshine law say that every motion that we're made, there's supposed to be a comment period?
No, when we come out of executive session, we make motions based on what is in executive session. The items on the public meeting are different items.
It's a gray area to me.
Okay.
But during this public comment, they certainly have the chance to comment on them.
Both.
Okay. All right. First person on is Maya Simon. Maya Simon.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I ask why Ms. De Leon voted against this.
So this is an opportunity for the public to offer comments to us. It's not really a question and answer session, but you can feel free to reach out to Ms. De Leon whenever you want after the meeting, and perhaps she'll answer your questions, maybe she won't. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I would like it to be part of the record, but I understand.
Thank you.
I'm glad that there has been motion going forward with the library issue. Does this change the plan to send a resident mailing about the history of the library?
That's not on the agenda. That's been removed.
Yes, it is. It's
No,
on.
no, ma'am. You have an earlier. It still is. Oh. I thought it was taken off. No, it wasn't. Okay. You can say that. Well, that's not for consideration tonight, ma'am. We're going to be removing that from the agenda.
Okay.
I expect we will be. We'll have a vote on it, right? Should we do it now?
Wait till she's done.
I'll wait till you're done, ma'am, and if you need to comment after we make that motion, I'll allow you to comment, but it's going to be off the agenda, I think.
The only other question I have is when can we expect to see the minutes from the August 30th meeting?
Again, this is
And I
public
know you're
comment.
not going to tell me, but
I don't, what's up? Yeah.
I'll rephrase it. I am eager to see the official minutes from the August 30th meeting, and I respectfully request that the court reporter spells my name correctly, which is M-A-I-A. Simon.
Thank you. All right, so.
Now, let's finish up. Is that the only people on? Just two?
There's 4.
Oh, there's 4.
Oh, wait. No, there's 4, 5.
Well, let's do the 5 and then we'll do it.
All right, so next we have Bob Blasco. Bob Blasco.
No comment, it doesn't do any use, you don't.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next is Kelly De Los Santos. Kelly De Los Santos. No response. All right, next is Miss Laura Ray. Miss Laura Ray.
Sorry, didn't get it on paper. All right, so I wanted to speak about the agenda item regarding the appointment of the EAC voting member. I did send in an email this afternoon, but I did want to reiterate the majority vote by EAC to move Jennifer Helton into the vacant member voting position. Jennifer has been a great associate member on our board. Her training as a master watershed steward and involvement with the Saucon Creek Watershed and the Lehigh Valley Watershed Coalition have benefited the EAC because she has provided very pertinent information regarding water quality. Among other things, Jennifer has shown her dedication by spending an entire Saturday at the EAC conference down in Media so that she could learn more about the environmental work that an EAC can do. We both attended the stormwater management sessions, the composting, and other sessions at that conference together. I have served on EAC for over 16 years, and I can say that on the occasions When we have had a vacancy for a voting member position, we have always selected one of our existing associate members and recommended them for the voting position, and they were always placed in that position. This aligns with our EAC bylaws. EAC members consider it an earned privilege to have a full voting position. Serving as an associate member and showing your environmental knowledge and integrity is very important. And it would not be proper to place a non-EAC member directly into a voting position.
Okay, thank you. Next is Victoria Optoff Cordero. Victoria Optoff Cordero.
Good evening, Victoria Optoff Cordero. I had a couple comments on a number of agenda items. The first agenda item, since I guess I learned about it at the beginning of your meeting, is your executive session and the motions that were had. And I can say that I think it would be very nice if council can explain further all of the conditions and by which they expect the borough or any other entity to engage in a settlement offer within 30 days. I am concerned that the number of conditions placed on said offer are a red herring. And so that's my comment on that issue. The other issue I wanted to comment about was the agenda item, which is still an agenda item, which is the mailer on the library. I just heard that you are now taking that off the agenda, or you're going to propose it later on. But I also would like council to consider actually having meetings with residents from the township, and perhaps consider including residents in your library committee that you had formed August 30th. And I'm also concerned that I haven't seen any publication about a meeting for the library committee, despite the fact that they're supposed to report back to council within 90 days. So I have a comment about that I think that's very concerning also, that we sit here without any residents on that committee. You're gonna now send a mailer out and the committee hasn't met, or maybe you're not sending it out. The third comment I wanna bring on agenda items is the joint defense agreement that the council is considering entering into with the landfill. You all have sat here for 9 months, and the landfill has been a major issue in our township. Has brought forward a lot of residents to discuss the issue over many, many meetings. And I think if the council were to make a good faith effort in showing residents that they cared about the community, they would not be entering into a joint defense contract with a developer on 3 different litigation matters. I think it's, the perception that I see is not one of working for the community, but rather working for one developer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, that concludes public comment. I don't think anyone else signed up for the list, so. Maybe I missed that.
No, at the end of the meeting, please. You're not. I think I signed up at the end.
Yeah, the others are here. Yeah, Mr. Boulan's on for the non-agenda. Yep. All right. Next up, we have the public hearing for ordinance 2023-06. The proposed ordinance would amend and revise the code of Lower Saucon Township, revising Chapter 180 zoning to allow underground storage tanks in carbonate geology areas only with appropriate safeguards in compliance with federal and Commonwealth of Pennsylvania regulations. So I'll make a motion to open the hearing, right?
Yes.
All right.
And you can start. Yep.
All right, I'll make a motion to open the hearing.
Second.
Ms. Gerger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Benonis?
Yes.
Mr. Croce?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, Link.
Thank you. As Mr. Benonis said, this is the public hearing on proposed ordinance number 2023-06. Council has seen this ordinance before when we prepared it before sending it out to the Township Planning Commission, the EAC, and the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission. The ordinance has been advertised in accordance with the MPC, and it is, after the public hearing, it is on your agenda for consideration of adoption. Scott Brown's here from Hanover. I'm going to briefly describe what the ordinance does. If I make any misstatements, Scott can correct me. If council has any questions, you can ask us and we'll do the best we can to answer them. So what this ordinance does is it would remove the restriction that currently exists in your zoning ordinance that does not allow underground storage tanks in the carbonate geology zoning district. This ordinance would provide that underground storage tanks are permitted, provided that those underground storage tanks meet the requirements of 40 CFR Part 280, which is a federal regulation regarding underground storage tanks, as well as the Pennsylvania Storage Tank Spill Prevention Act and the Pennsylvania Code. It is all of Part 280. I had seen an email from a township resident, I can't remember who, asking questions about this ordinance. What the ordinance does is it makes all of Part 280 part of your zoning ordinance. There are specific sections that are called out in the ordinance of Section 280 that are just called out for emphasis. All of 280 applies. There was also a comment in the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission letter about a suggestion that the ordinance comply. The LVPC recommends ensuring that provisions of the proposed ordinance also align with any state requirements. It says right in the ordinance that it shall be installed and operated in accordance with the Pennsylvania Storage Tank Spill Prevention Act and the Pennsylvania Code. So those are already covered in the ordinance. That's the basic outline of the ordinance. It requires that anybody installing such an underground storage tank meet these federal and state requirements, and that's what's proposed to be added to your zoning ordinance.
So the EAC's letter goes on, and it was voted 4-1 to have this re-reviewed, federal regs to align with the code. Can you explain that?
I don't know what they voted to do.
Sandy, you were there?
Yeah, there were some concerns that there was some redundancy and some conflicting statements in that code.
Is that the same thing that was in the email that I saw?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think I answered that question, that all of 40 CFR 280 is part of this ordinance, not just bits and pieces of it. All of that section is part of it. So there's no reason to go back and review which parts should be added and which parts shouldn't. All of Section 280 is in your ordinance.
And just to be clear, we could not pass an ordinance that is less restrictive than federal law or state law, right? Federal law and state law trumps.
The federal law is the federal law, but it says all installation shall be installed in accordance with 40 CFR Part 280, all of it.
It was brought up that some of the language in the, I guess, the federal and state were not always completely the same, or whatever you want to say. So there was some concern that it wasn't as clear, I guess.
Well, I mean, if anybody ever comes in and proposes to put an underground storage tank in a carbonate geology area, then we will deal with that during the land development process as to if there's a conflict between a federal regulation and a state regulation, which there sometimes is, we just deal with it.
But just to be clear, Link, if that's the case, wouldn't the more restrictive
Yes, we would.
Competing provision be the one that prevails?
As the township staff, we would pick the one that's more restrictive.
Right.
The Township Planning Commission voted 5-0 in favor of the zoning ordinance amendment.
And just to be clear, this proposed ordinance is really bringing the Lower Saucon ordinances up to speed, right? So when the pre-existing ordinance that dealt with this issue is quite old, and technologies have changed since then with regard to the construction and monitoring for these types of storage tanks, correct?
Correct. The underground storage tanks that are installed today are much different than what were installed 30 years ago.
Much different and safer, more environmentally conscious.
Safer, more environmentally conscious, because anybody installing an underground storage tank doesn't want to spill because they're liable for it.
Right.
So why would you install something that's gonna bring liability upon yourself?
Okay. All right, any other questions from council? Then I'll open up to the floor. We have a few witnesses or residents that asked to speak, the first of which is Bob Blasco. Bob Blasco?
This is for
The ordinance.
Carbonate geology.
All right. Miss Laura Ray? Right. There's only two. All right, before you start, you'll need to be sworn in. If you could swear in, please.
Please raise your right hand. You swear by Almighty God or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. If so, please answer, I do.
I do.
And can you spell your last name, please?
R-A-Y. Real easy. Okay, so I'm the one that wrote the letter and tried to really be specific about the parts in the code, in the resolution that seemed to cause confusion. If I was a developer and read this, it would be confusing if you look up these codes because it doesn't match up with what it's supposed to. So if the whole, yeah, it's funny, if the whole ordinance applies, the whole Code of Federal Regulation applies, why don't we just have that and be done with it? So what I saw, though, is in our ordinance, it refers spill and overflow prevention equipment specified by section 280.20C1 must be used for all transfer of product. So when you go to that federal code, C1 also refers to C2 and C3, so I'll assume those are included, but we skipped C4, which is where it states spill and overflow prevention equipment must be periodically tested or inspected in accordance with subsection 280.35, so I'm not sure why we would skip that part. Another section, it refers spill and overflow prevention equipment specified by section 280.20C1 must be used for all transfer of product. If you go to 280.20, there is, let's see, 280.20C1, it refers to, sorry. Spill and overflow prevention. Sorry, I have so many notes here. So, sorry. I'll go to the next sentence here. The spill or overflow prevention equipment specified by section 280.20C1 must be used for all transfer of product. Installation shall follow section 280.20E4 and 280.20E5. So that's talking about installation, but if you go to that code, it's talking about the certificate of installation, not the actual installation. So the actual installation is in another part of the federal code. So that's one confusing area.
But it's still in section 280, right?
Pardon?
It's still in section 280.
It is,
Okay,
but
well,
if we're spiking out
all of 280
these
is in
special
there.
points and they look up these special points, it doesn't match back to the sentence.
If you read the first part of the ordinance, it says all
Don't
of
we only
section
have
40
that?
CFR
Why don't we just
280.
say that and be done with it?
Because we wanted to emphasize which certain parts we thought were important.
Okay, well then, so here's one more example then. A hydrological site assessment in accordance with section 280.66B 2 and 3 shall be prepared and submitted to the township as part of the land development and/or zoning permit application review process. So it's talking about doing a hydrogeologic site assessment. When you go to that section, it's a corrective action plan. So it's nothing about, and if you go specifically to 2 and 3, it has 2 statements that are part of a list of 6 items about the, what is this list for?
All right, Ms. Ray, I gave you more.
Implementing
hold on.
agency will
Ms.
approve
Ray,
the corrective action
I gave you
plan.
I gave you over 3 minutes, if you could wrap up
Okay,
your
well,
thoughts, 'cause there's
it's
others.
hard to do this very quickly, because
I
there's a
was-
lot of wording here.
I
I'm
was
just
talking
saying, it's
about it,
talking about a hydrogeologic site assessment, and when you go to that code, that's not what that part of the code is, so, you
Because the
know.
hydrologic site assessment is an additional requirement. Any applicant who wants to put an underground storage tank in has to prepare the assessment that meets the things outlined in those two subsections that you talked about. It's a
Two
separate issue.
subsections are something different.
No, they're
It's-
not. They relate to what you need to include when doing the assessment. The
Okay,
assessment
well-
the assessment's not required by the federal code. We are requiring an extra step. Do the assessment, make sure it meets the requirements of those two subsections that you
Okay,
mentioned.
well, it looks like it should show you how to do this assessment in accordance with that code.
It does. You go to those
It
sections
doesn't
and
really, it talks about a corrective action plan, so
Okay.
I'm just pointing out confusion.
I'm just trying to
Adopt the
explain
whole,
it.
adopt the whole 280.
We did.
And that's
We
fine,
did.
and skip all these
We did.
pointed information.
Well, we didn't yet, but we may.
We might, yes.
Poorly written.
All right, just to be clear, Link, if I'm understanding Ms. Ray's complaints, aren't they really more properly directed to U.S. Representative Susan Wild and U.S. Senator John Fetterman and U.S. Senator Bob Casey, because she's complaining about the way the federal regulations are written, which we had nothing to do and we're incorporating here. Am I?
No,
I'm not talking, Matt. You're not recognized. I'm having a conversation with the solicitor to try to. Okay, ma'am, go ahead.
No, I think it just sounded like she was under the impression, if, like she said, she wrote the email, and that was the email that I saw, that she was under the impression that not all of section 40 CFR 280 was included in this ordinance, and it is, so.
And you said that to her
Yeah,
multiple times.
she was just mistaken.
Okay. All right. Our next witness is Victoria Optoff Cordero. Victoria Optoff Cordero. And you'll need to be sworn in as well.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear by Almighty God or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please answer, I do.
I do.
Okay, please spell your last name.
OPTHOF as in Frank, hyphen CORD as in Delta, ARO. Sure. I think to sum up what I just heard and the back and forth is that our draft of the ordinance, the citations listed after the sentences do not correctly reference the federal sections of the code that the sentence is discussing. So I appreciate the eye rolling. I'm just saying, is this so important for you all to consider this evening? Maybe you want to correct the language or remove it so that we don't look silly when a developer comes and goes through it and looks at the citations and says, what are these people doing? Because they don't match. I mean, yes, they will go and find the correct section after because we're adopting the entire federal code. But, you know, if we want to look good and we want the developers to respect us intelligently, it would make sense that our draft ordinances match the federal codes as best as possible. The other comment I did want to make is I am still concerned about putting any kind of storage tank in a hydrogeologic area. I think it's a very sensitive area for a long time. We have never allowed that type of storage facility. I appreciate that there are federal regulations and clearly designs change. There's differences in how people make things. But I think in keeping with the historical preference of our township through many different councils, it would make sense not to adopt this ordinance. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Link, may I ask you a question? Do they match?
They match.
Okay, thank you.
Scott, let me ask Scott from Hanover. Scott, when you read the ordinance as say you were an applicant's, no, I just asked one question. Say you were an applicant's engineer. Is it confusing to you? Do you know what the regulation, what you need to follow? Yeah, okay.
Thank you. All right, I don't have anyone else who's asked to speak during this hearing, so unless there's other questions or comments from council, having heard none, I will make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Mr. Bononis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Caroci?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon?
Yes.
Mr. Engels?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right.
And as I said before, it's on your agenda later on under business items to consider whether you want to adopt the ordinance or not. And thank you. We're good. Yep.
All right, moving on. There are no developer items tonight. We're now up to township business items. First is authorization to release installment payment number 3 of 5 to Lower Saucon Fire Rescue ladder truck. Lower Saucon Fire Rescue's loan payment for the purchased ladder truck is due on October 1, 2023. Council agreed to fund 75% of the purchase price over a 5-year period. After a down payment of $425,600, the next payment is due in the amount of $134,313.35 to apply toward the Lower Saucon Fire Rescue loan. Unless there's any questions or comments from council, I would like to, and I will make a motion to authorize the release of installment payment number 3 of 5 to Lower Saucon Fire Rescue for the ladder truck in the amount of $134,313.35 toward the Lower Saucon Fire Rescue loan.
I'll second it.
Mr. Caroci, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon?
Yes.
Mr. Engels?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger?
Yes.
Mr. Benonis?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, guys.
Good work.
All right, next up, we have consideration of adoption of ordinance 2023-06, revising Chapter 180 zoning. See the description in 3C, so we just had the public hearing. The proposed ordinance would amend and revise the code of Lower Saucon Township by revising Chapter 180 zoning to allow underground storage tanks in carbonate geology areas only with appropriate safeguards in compliance with federal and Commonwealth of Pennsylvania regulations. I don't have any other comments or questions about it. I think it was discussed during the hearing. And with that, I will make a motion to approve ordinance 2023-06.
I'll second it.
Ms. DeLeon, how do you vote?
No.
Mr. Engels?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger?
Yes.
Mr. Benonis?
Yes.
Mr. Caroci?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, up next is the presentation and review of the capital improvement plan for 2023 through 2028. The Assistant Township Manager and Director of Finance has prepared a draft of the 5-year capital plan for council's review and discussion. Kathy, would you share with us?
Sure, thank you. As you had stated, we submitted the capital plan.
Is your mic on, Ken?
I believe so.
Green?
Yeah, it was green.
All right, just talking through it.
Okay. We submitted the capital plan in accordance to our ordinance. If you had an opportunity to review, we are taking an aggressive approach to handling some of our MS4 requirements next year. We are planning on a few capital improvement projects. We've noted the pickleball courts that are coming in this year and next year with the Easton Road ball fields and the grant we were awarded for the town hall tot lot replacement. We have several road projects that will have been delayed to a certain extent. We're kind of shuffling around the projects based on how we're able to get all the documentation in order. So Black River should be finished sometime this year, hopefully.
Black River hopefully will be finished this year. We are still waiting for Verizon to come out. We contact them weekly along with the engineers. We've now been waiting a month for them to come out and move their line.
And the Easton, or the Reading Culvert, which is on the agenda this evening, that'll need to be completed before June of next year. So we are moving aggressively in trying to replace and fix those items. Also in here is also the replacement schedule of our vehicles that we had expanded, if you remember, from a 10 to a 15-year plan for the public works apparatus and 2.5 year to maybe 5 for the police. So if you approve and you are okay, we are moving forward with, or we would like to get ahead of it and order, if possible, after budget, the vehicles for the replacement of the paver and the backhoe for 2025. Public Works vehicles along with fire apparatus, replacement, the delays are almost over 2 years.
So
Even if we ordered it now, we wouldn't get it until 2 years from now.
we expect the paver, we were told the paver has a 12 to 18 month delivery time, and the backhoe is like 8 to 10 months. So originally the plan was to come in and just ask for the paver, but since that's going to be delayed to 2025 with the new supply and demand world that we are in, we're going to request to purchase both the backhoe and the paver as soon as possible, with the expectation that the backhoe will be delivered in 2024 and the paver will be delivered in 2025. We will not come back for another vehicle in 24 unless we are ordering for 2026. Or there's a, no, for 2026. Yes. So we kind of have to change the way we've done things. We still don't have the F-250 pickup that we ordered in January of 2022. So.
Needless to say, some of these things are carrying, which a capital plan is supposed to do, and it's supposed to move as things change or amounts change. So we are in good shape when it comes to that, and we'll be recommending funding, increasing a little bit funding in the budgetary process outside of any excesses of revenue over expenditures on our annual basis, which we had projected some time ago that we were going to have to increase that annual allotment towards the capital fund over time.
And then 2 police vehicles.
Yeah, and the 2 police vehicles. If there's any questions?
Thank you, Kathy.
Anything you want to
I was going
add?
to say thank you for all your hard work. I know it's not easy.
All right, next up, we have approval of the 2024 minimum municipal obligation for uniform and non-uniform pension plans. Act 205 requires the township manager as the CAO for the 2 employee pension plans to annually determine the MMO of the township for the coming year. The 2024 MMOs for both plans have been prepared by the township actuary and reviewed by the Pension Advisory Committee at their meeting on September 13, 2023, and are being presented for approval. Kathy?
Yes, these MMOs are based on the most recent actuarial evaluation that's required to be filed in March of 2024. We always base our MMO closer to the date that we should be looking at them, as opposed to delaying future, delaying it and pushing it down the line. This is the first year where we're actually, our MMOs are lowered. For the police plan, a little higher on the non-uniform plan, but by council needs to approve these MMOs officially before we can put them in the budget.
Do we have to do a motion? Didn't we stop doing motions? I think we.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the 2024 minimum municipal obligation for the uniform pension plan in the amount of $282,056, and for the non-uniform pension plan in the amount of $200,642.
I'll second that, but in the past it varies. 1 year we do it and 1 year we don't. So this year I seconded it.
I think for the record, these are looked at by the auditors for the pension plan, so it's probably best to do a motion in the minutes.
So that'll be a policy from now on.
Moving forward.
Okay, well, we made the motion. Priscilla seconded. Call the roll.
Mr. Ingles? Yes. Ms. Sugar?
Yes.
Mr. Benonis?
Yes.
Mr. Carucci? Yes. Ms. Giuliani?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, next up is Resolution 60-2023, authorizing the submission of a grant application for the Monroe Local Share Account funding for a replacement playground in Southeastern Park. The draft resolution has been prepared. Should council approve the application to apply for grant funding for the purchase of a replacement playground in Southeastern Park? Mark?
Yeah, so we put together a resolution, and we're gonna put together a grant application for the Monroe Local Share Grant to replace Southeastern Park. We looked at the playgrounds, and Southeastern Park was the next that was in need of replacement, and we can ask this from the Monroe Local Share grant opportunity. So we'll see if they will fund the playground for us, and then we will get a new playground.
Sounds great. Unless there's any questions from council, I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 60-2023, authorizing the submission of grant application for Monroe County Local Share Account funding for the purchase of the playground at Southeastern Park.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Sandy.
It's nice to see the kids are using it. It really is.
Give some great parks.
Yeah, yes,
Ms. Yerger, how do you vote?
yes.
Mr. Bononis?
Yes.
Mr. Carochi?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon?
Yes.
Mr. Engels?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, next we have Resolution 61-2023, authorizing the submission of a grant application for Northampton and Lehigh County Local Share Account funding for a new paver for the Public Works Department. The attached draft resolution is prepared should council approve the application for grant funding for a new paver for the Public Works Department. Mark?
As we spoke in the capital plan, the township is in need of a new paver. Our paver is 22 years old and gets a lot of use every year. So we're looking to make an application to the Northampton Lehigh County Gaming Grant, or a local share grant, to help with the replacement of the road paver. We're going to ask for $400,000. The cost of the paver is $550,000.
Okay. I don't have any questions. I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 61-2023, authorizing the submission of a grant application for Northampton and Lehigh County Local Share Account funding for the purchase of a Public Works paver.
Mr. Bononis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Carochi?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon?
Yes.
Mr. Engels?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, next up we have appointment of Environmental Advisory Council voting member. There are 7 volunteer applications that were submitted to the township by residents interested in joining the EAC. Mark, do you want to speak to any of these? Or Tom? And Tom, you're the chair of EAC. And Sandy, you're on EAC.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's have a start.
We went through the 7 applications, and members voted. My recommendation as chair is for Cheyenne Raymond to be the voting member for the EAC. And I'll make that motion.
I have some discussion.
Who said that?
I said I made a motion for Cheyenne Raymond to be the voting member for the Environmental Advisory Council.
I'll second that motion.
Can I have a comment?
Yeah.
Since the EAC was found and formed, Sandy, you go way back to those days.
Yeah.
There was a procedure policy that was followed, and whenever there'd be a voting member vacancy, they would look to the non-voting member appointments and recommend someone from that if they were acceptable to it. And then they would come to council, and council, out of respect for the EAC, would support that nominee. That's not happening here tonight. The nominee was Jennifer Hilton, and I'm opposed to that. I think that she should be the person appointed. And I think the bylaws even say that. And
But the bylaws say that you have to make a recommendation to council.
Which they did.
Link,
It's just a recommendation. It's just a recommendation.
is there any requirement to appoint a non-voting member into a voting member position?
No, the ordinance that created the EAC says all appointments are made by council.
right, but prior to that, the recommendation is from the EAC to consider that recommendation.
And sometimes we listen to the planning commission's recommendation, sometimes we don't. I mean, a recommendation's a recommendation.
Okay. Well, we have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? Any? We'll call the vote.
Mr. Carochi, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon, how do you vote?
Nope.
Mr. Engels, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger?
Yes.
Mr. Bononis?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Next up, we have the EAC Network Fall Gathering Conference. Members of the Environmental Advisory Council, EAC, expressed interest in attending the EAC Network Fall Gathering Conference hosted by We Conserve PA on Saturday, October 21, 2023 at Westchester University. Early registration fee is $60. Registration will increase by $15 to $75 after September 29, 2023. Mark, you have anything to add to it?
Yeah, some members of the EAC expressed interest in going, like you said, so we wanted to bring it to council to approve the EAC members getting the reimbursement for the $60 if they go to the event.
I'll make that motion to reimburse or to pay for their registration fees, whoever's interested on the EAC.
Does that have a dollar limit? Are you limiting it to the $60 early registration fee or the $75 late registration fee?
I would think it would be the $60, the early registration fee. I mean, we do have time.
Yeah.
So, you know, save money. Yeah.
So that's a motion, right, Priscilla?
I'm sorry?
It's a motion.
It's a motion, right? Yeah, okay,
I'll second that.
okay.
Sandy second.
With the $60 limit for the, as long as they apply for the early registration.
Yes, my
fine, as long
motion's
as it goes
amended to include that.
Okay. Sandy, you seconded it?
Yep.
Yeah, Sandy did.
Okay, that's fine, whatever, whoever needs to.
Ms. DeLeon, how do you vote?
Yes?
Mr. Engels?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger?
Yes.
Mr. Bononis?
Yes.
Mr. Croce?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, next up, we have discussion of a resident mailing about the history of library services and what the committee hopes to achieve. We talked earlier, I'll make a motion to remove that item from the agenda for tonight.
I'll second.
Has the
Miss-
committee met yet?
No.
No, that's why, that's one of the reasons.
Mr. Engels, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger?
Yes.
Mr. Bononis?
Yes,
Mr. Croce?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon?
So this is to remove the item from the agenda?
that's correct.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, next up, we have award bid for the Reading Drive culvert replacement. The township received a bid for the precast concrete culvert structure and installation of said structure for the Reading Drive culvert replacement project in the amount of $282,000. I'm sorry, $282,200 from CMR Construction, Inc. Mark, do you have anything to add?
No, this was the second time this went out to bid. The first time that it went out, we were trying to get the culvert for this past summer. No bids were received on that. We put the bid back out with the delivery date of March or April of 2024. We only did receive one bid. The Hanover reviewed it, and it is a valid bid, and it is a good. But again, this is going to the supply and demand issue. We put this bid out in July of 2023 to receive it in March or April of 2024, and we only received one bid.
Well, I'll make a motion to award the bid for the Reading Drive culvert in the amount of $282,200 to CMR Construction, Inc.
I'll second it. Guess we don't have any choice, obviously.
Sandy, Ms. Yerger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Sorry.
No problem.
Mr. Bononis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Croce?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon? Mr. Engels?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, next we have discussion and potential action regarding the joint defense agreement declaratory judgment action. The proposed joint defense agreement would protect all communications, information, documents, and other information related to the defense of the declaratory judgment action. Link?
Thank you. This is very similar to the joint defense agreement that council approved back when we had the appeals relative to the prior zoning ordinance amendment that eventually got overturned by the Court of Common Pleas. So as Mr. Bononis said, what this does is we now have 3 quasi-litigation items that have been filed regarding ordinance 2023-05. There's a declaratory judgment action in the Court of Common Pleas. There's a procedural validity challenge in the Court of Common Pleas. And there's a substantive validity challenge in front of the Zoning Hearing Board. So because the landfill is named as a I'll call it a co-defendant in the declaratory judgment action, and because the landfill will be intervening in the other 2 appeals, what this agreement does is it protects the disclosure of strategy issues, any common strategy that the township might have with the landfill being a co-defendant from disclosure. So that's what it does. It's not jumping in with the developer, it's protecting communications that would otherwise could be disclosed and would disclose strategy issues.
Makes sense. All right, any questions from council regarding the proposed joint defense and joint privilege agreement? All right, having heard none, I'll make a motion to approve entering into the joint defense and joint privilege agreement that's been provided in supplement to our packet tonight.
Second.
Mr. Benonis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Caroci?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon?
No.
Mr. Engels?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, next we have approval of the event application at the Lutz Franklin Schoolhouse for Apple Fest. Council reviewed the event application for Apple Fest to take place on Saturday, October 14, 2023 at Lutz Franklin Schoolhouse. Sounds delicious, Mark?
This is an event they do every year. It's just a formality to come before council. But yes, anyone that would like to on Saturday the 14th, after you visit the electronic recycling event that the township is hosting here, which I'll plug again later, you can go over to the Apple Fest and have a apple cider.
All right.
Sounds good.
With that, I will make a motion to approve the application for Apple Fest to take place on Saturday, October 14, 2023 at Lutz Franklin Schoolhouse.
I'll second it.
Second that.
Sandy?
Yeah, well, whoever, but as long as it's seconded.
Mr. Caroci, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon?
Yes.
Mr. Engels?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger?
Yes.
Mr. Benonis?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, up next, miscellaneous business items. Approval of the July 26, 2023 council minutes. We have the minutes in front of us. I'll make a motion, unless there's any edits from anyone, I will make a motion to approve the July 26, 2023 council minutes without any corrections.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Sandy.
Ms. DeLeon, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Engels?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger?
Yes.
Mr. Benonis?
Yes.
Mr. Caroci?
Yes.
Motion passes.
And we also have the approval of the August 16, 2023 council minutes. Unless there are any comments or changes, I will make a motion to approve the August 16, 2023 council minutes without corrections.
Second.
Thank you.
Mr. Engels, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger?
Yes.
Mr. Benonis?
Yes.
Mr. Caroci?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, that moves us to council and staff reports. Mark, do you have a township manager report? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Oh, I did. I'm sorry.
That's why
Thank you. We also have the August financial reports. I apologize for that. Unless anyone has any questions, Kathy, do you want to add anything to the reports? Okay. Then I will make a motion to approve the August financial reports.
Second.
Ms. Yerger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Benonis?
Yes.
Mr. Caroci?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon?
Yes.
Mr. Engels?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, now that I've caught up with myself, we are at township manager reports. Mark?
The Eastern Road Ball Field, we are meeting with the contractor tomorrow for a pre-construction meeting along with the County Conservation District. Construction is expected to begin next week, Monday, September 25th. The pickleball courts at Polk Valley was started. The guys got in there, they leveled the area out and brought stone in. We're letting it settle now and we'll be back as soon as we can as other jobs get done to pave the pickleball court. Steel City paving project has begun. They were out there milling, replacing stormwater, did some base repair, scratch coats, and have started with the top coat paving Steel City. Heller Homestead, they've been out. They've begun working on the Widow's House windows. The Saucon Valley Conservancy Group removed all of the antiques from the building so that the contractor has plenty of room to move. And the contractor was worried about dust from cleaning up the windows and stuff, so the Saucon Valley Conservancy moved things out of the Widow's House. As I just said, Lower Saucon Township is hosting an electronic recycling event on Saturday, October 14th at 9 a.m. here at the Public Works Building. We're going to do it the same as we did last year. Vehicles will come in the lower driveway, come up behind the Public Works garage, and they'll come through the drive-through bays where we will unload the cars for them and put the electronics into the trucks to go for recycling. We have an opening on the Saucon Valley Rail Trail Committee. We have gotten a couple of applications, but we're still taking that. Expect to have that at the October meeting. And just a reminder to everyone, the Freemansburg Motorcycle Hill Climb will be held this Sunday over at the Motorcycle Club.
Will the paving be done before they get in there?
They won't be in Steel City.
Right, they're on Riverside Drive.
Yeah, yep. I don't know, I asked if they hold it in the rain. I do not know the answer to that.
Sometimes they do.
No rain date? It's gotta be funny. I don't know. So if it's pouring, they might not have it. So if you're into your motorcycle hill climb, if it's raining, they might not be there. That's all I have.
What were the hours for the recycling again? Noon, 9 to noon?
I think it was 9 to 11. I know that the truck filled last year. We do have a different contractor this year. So I think I think it's 9 to 11.
Okay.
I think there's some confusion in the public out there. They think the ball field is going to cost $4 million. Council, can you clarify that? Council authorized $1.8 million. $500,000 came from a gaming grant and another
more than 500,000.
Right. So can you clarify the funding of the ball field, because people are Priscilla's misleading people, telling them $4 million.
The base bid for the baseball field was 1.8 some odd dollars. The council also approved the sod alternate for 60 some odd dollars. So the total is 1.95 about. Funding is, no, 1.9, give or take.
How's that base?
We have 511, I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, but
511 from the grants, 500 from ARPA. 500 reserves, was that from the Park and Rec?
I'm sorry. What did you say? I'm sorry.
The funding that we were going to use for this was a little over 500,000 in grant money that we received from the two local shares. 500,000 from the ARPA, which we have $914,000 left of that. There's 800,000 in our park capital fund, which we were going to use 500,000 from there, and we were going to use 500,000 from reserves.
And just to be clear, Mark, the grant money that we have was specifically allocated and earmarked for that project and not for any other project within the township, correct?
Correct, it was specifically for the Eastern
So
Road
every
ball
person
field.
who's out there saying that we authorized $4 million to pay for a ball field is either incorrect or a liar, correct?
Correct.
They would be incorrect.
They'll be correct or incorrect?
Incorrect.
Okay.
It was 1.9.
Right. Right, but it wasn't $1.9 million of taxpayer money, it was $500 and some thousand dollars of state grant money allocated for it. It was $500 and some thousand dollars of federal money, and it was $500,000 from the reserve fund that was allocated to this.
Yep.
Okay.
The electronics recycling event is from 9 a.m. till 12.
Let's see if the media corrects their reporting on that subject. I bet you they don't.
Yeah, I don't know. Priscilla gives out false information. All right, I'm sorry, Mark, are you done?
No, yep, I'm good.
All right, council reports.
Mark, how'd we do with the fixing of the paver? Are we back in
That is in the
operation?
process. We expect to get the paver back on Friday.
So everything went well?
We expect to get the paver back on Friday.
So we got some, but for the audience, that's part of why we need a new paver. And we did an analysis of how this all worked, and we save an awful lot of money by our township doing the paving versus subbing it out. Some jobs are too big, such as the terrace last year in Still City, but a lot of the smaller jobs our guys do, and we save a lot of money doing it. So I think the paver's a nice purchase.
Yeah.
And the other one's limping along until we can get the new one.
Do you have anything else?
I'm pretty good.
Okay, I have nothing tonight.
I have a handful of things. I'll give an update from we had the pension committee meeting occurred on September 13th. Unlike our neighbors, our funding is very, very good. 2023 Act 205 valuation final reports will be submitted. They've already been submitted to the state. The deadline to submit those is March 2024. We file early, so we use the new valuation to determine this year's MMO. The 2024 MMO agenda for the police plan for 2023 is $426,000. Non-uniforms, $170,000. For next year, 2024, that drops down to $282,000 for the police plan, but it goes up a little bit for the non-uniform to $200,000. Township was spending $30,000 more in the non-uniform plan and $144,000 less in the uniform plan for a total of $483,000. Municipal contribution was $234,000, which is a 33% reduction from last year. Again, 33% reduction, great job. PSAB, there's no legislative issues that were being reported. Morgan Stanley said that not a lot changed since the last meeting. They're experiencing a rebound in equity and fixed income. Growth companies are outperforming value. The S&P is up 17%. Growth companies are up 29%. Value companies, 5 consumer discretion stocks up 30. Energy is down 5.7. I'm sure that's going to change with gas prices going up. Top 5 companies in the U.S. stock market are up 47%. The remaining companies are up 10%. Large companies are rallying in the third quarter. Let's hope that continues. Inflation decreased. The Federal Reserve wants 2%. Unemployment rose 0.3% to 3.8%. Feds have increased rates 10 times to address inflation. If rates are raised again, it'll probably be a 25 basis point in November. All indicators are showing that we are not immediately going into recession, which is good news. PSAB, MRT, it was a good year. Not much change from the last year. MRT performance as of June 30 was 8.86%, 10.39% through last week, and that's where we stand. So overall, pension is doing very well. A couple of things I want to talk about just generally with regard to the library. I just read 2 editorials on SauconVoice.com. It talks about how did the situation with the Hellertown Area Library get to this point, and how has Lower Saucon Township responded. It talks about how Lower Saucon Township had helped Hal over nearly a decade with major library projects. It talks about how Hal wanted Lower Saucon Township to pay into Hal's coffers over a 5-year period while being permitted to raise the dollar amount of the yearly contributions unilaterally without accountability. In addition, we would have no legal defense against gouging. Lower Saucon Township would have no input whatsoever in Hal's affairs. Goes on to talk about Lower Saucon Township's commitment to the availability of the best educational resources for its residents, and also discussions about what we talked about at the last meeting, which was the digital library. And it also goes on to talk about, and Tom, you bring this up at every meeting, how Lower Saucon Township has been able to furnish library services for any resident who wants access and out of savings. And to that point, the township spent around $57,000 last year and around $10,000 this year to assure that its residents have services they need, compared to the projected minimum of $105,000 per year. And as a result, Lower Saucon Township Council has created a significant savings of taxpayer money. And it goes on to talk about at the very core of the matters that council is doing exactly what Lower Saucon residents elected them to do, to protect and advance the best interest of everyone who lives in the township. There's another article in there, talks about the library, and it mentions the lopsided demands of the library partnership and Lower Saucon Township's commitment to building new library resources to serve its residents at a reasonable cost. So I'm just sharing that with the public. You know, at the last meeting we did the rezoning. I remember Ginger Petrie stood up and made some comments about the effect of the property values, and the beauty of this is that there's lots of public records. So in 1987, she purchased her property, approximately 144 acres for $60,000. 2014, she purchased an additional 72 acres for $525,000. So her total cost on that is $585,000. What was not mentioned, I don't think, was that Lower Saucon had paid her a conservation easement in the amount of $495,000. And there's also a subdivision that occurred where there was parcels N8-14-9E was sold for $125,000, N8-14-9D was sold for $120,000, and N8-14-9C was sold for $125,000. So out of that initial cost or basis of $585,000, there's been a total revenue of $865,000 to those properties, and she still owns the properties. So I wanted to address that point so the public is aware of perhaps some details that were omitted from the last meeting.
And she's currently suing, right, to prevent the township from receiving about $70 to $80 million in host municipal fees over an 18-year period.
Yeah.
So the rest of the township can't profit, I guess, can't profit, but I guess the Petrie's can, right? Is that the way it is?
And in addition to that, the township has received yet another right-to-know request from the attorney representing those 8 plaintiffs in that matter. And, you know, obviously every time a right-to-know request comes into the township, there's cost and time. The township staff has to deal with it, and the township solicitor has to incur expenses, his time, which is a detriment to the township taxpayers. So I just want the public to be aware of things that they may not know of because of circumstances that are beyond their control.
Just taking township money and for conservation easement and suing the township.
Yeah, great. So that's all I have for my report. Priscilla, your report?
Yes, on Tuesday, the September 19th, I attended, sorry, my mic's not on. On Tuesday, November, I wish, September 19th, I attended a Hellertown Lower Saucon Chamber Board meeting. And I also received in an email from the township DEP inspection report. I'm not very happy reading this. There were 2, actually we got 2 on the same day. One was dated August 16th. That was the day after that horrible rainstorm we had on that Sunday. And then on August 21st. And there's a lot of, the inspector goes out and he writes up his comments. And it ends with new and outstanding violations. And it goes on to say the code. I'll just say the comment. BLC failed to implement their nuisance minimization and control plan in violation of 25 PA Code 273.136B123 and their northern realignment permit modification. It goes on to say the BLC conducted 24 odor patrols. Comment, the BLC conducted 24 odor patrols between July 13th and August 21st, 2023. BLC was reminded in the July inspection report that the updated nuisance minimization and control plan for the northern realignment requires additional monitoring and record-keeping requirements. BLC failed to perform daily odor patrols, daily runoff inspections, daily dust inspections, daily mud inspections, daily noise observations, daily perimeter checks for the gas collection system, daily litter fence inspections, weekly cover inspections, weekly leachate seeps inspections, weekly cover inspections for vectors, weekly litter patrol inspections, and random and routine inspections for traffic, including traffic flow and routine compliance in violation of 25 PA Code 273.218B123C. No odor patrols were conducted on July 12th, July 13th, July 15th, July 17th, July 20th, July 22, July 25th, July 29th, August 3rd to the 5th, August 12th, August 19th. No records for the other remaining criteria were available for review. Then it goes on to say that BLC failed to perform daily odor patrols, daily runoff inspections, daily dust inspections, daily mud inspections, daily noise observations, daily perimeter checks for the gas collection system, daily litter fence inspections,
weekly cover inspections, weekly leachate seats inspections, weekly cover inspections for vectors, weekly litter patrol inspections, and random and routine inspections for traffic, including traffic flow and route compliance in violation of 25 PA Code 273.218 B123C, and their northern realignment permit modification. Then it goes on to say BLC failed to implement their nuisance minimization and control plan in violation of 25 PA Code 273.136 B123 and their northern realignment permit modification. This is awful.
I'm sure they're on it.
Excuse me? They've been in violation since July and they're on it. I'm very upset over this, that we have to read this. What is the township doing about this?
Who are you asking that question to?
I'm sorry, Link, what?
That's a DEP notice, right?
Okay, so
It's not a
yeah, so
township
it's in our
inspection notice.
township. When is our next host meeting?
I'm
Our
asking a
next-
question. You're reading from a DEP notice.
am.
So DEP has been monitoring what happens at the landfill extremely closely
Yes.
and is now telling them they need to fix stuff. Good. They should fix stuff.
Well, I'm just appalled by the length of time this is taking. So I'm appalled about everything. Okay, so it's my turn to speak, so you can have your turn then. Okay, well, that I want on the record. And I believe, Stacy, I gave you a thumb drive. Okay, we'll talk about, I don't know how is there a ball? What's first on the thumb drive? I'm sorry?
There we go, okay. I couldn't get it.
Okay,
Okay, so which one is that?
which one's first? Okay. Let me do the sunshine law first. Okay, I was questioning about the library committee, and in fact, I even called the sunshine law people at the office in Harrisburg, and it says that any state or local government body, covering up my mic, and all subunits appointed by that body that perform an essential government function and exercises authority to take official action or render advice. It can include boards, councils, authorities, commissions, and committees. So, in my opinion, that whenever this library committee meets, it needs to advertise the meeting and the public's invited. So it needs to be advertised. So I know you've all said that you didn't meet yet, but I'm saying that if you intend to meet, it needs to be advertised as a committee meeting.
I agree with you.
Oh, great. God, that was good.
You're all the sunshine.
I know, it's radiating.
You're all the
I
sunshine,
know.
man.
Okay, Stacy, what was the next one
Some
then?
sunscreen?
Sunburn.
Okay, so let me do the conservation one. Yes. Okay. Okay, Jason, at the August 30th meeting, you highlighted an increase from only 2 properties temporarily conserved, and now 12 properties are permanently conserved after the council vote, a 60% increase in the number of properties. That factoid is meaningless for several reasons. More properties absolutely does not equate to better quality properties. The original 197.27 acres on 2 properties conserved were densely wooded and had many environmentally sensitive features that the EAC would look for when preserving properties. Most of the 193.13 acres of the new Bethlehem landfill conservation easement properties consist of developed and environmentally degraded land. The scenic viewscape, for which many are of the landfill and the power plant. A strip of land where the existing pipeline runs is included in the total acreage of conserved land. An area of that land is part of the active landfill parcel is included in the total acreage of conserved land. Next slide, please. The landfill, to burn The landfill to burn, cut, remove, or destruct trees, shrubs, or other wooded vegetation in these cases, to remove dead, infested, or diseased trees. No notice needed to do this. There seems to be no way that anyone could confirm that what they removed fits the criteria. This is in the new conservation easement. To control erosion, it certainly isn't normal to remove vegetation to control erosion. This generally causes erosion. Number 3, to install and maintain groundwater monitoring wells or gas monitoring probes, stormwater management, or stream restoration activities. They can construct these things required to run a landfill on the conserved land, so it's not really conserved. Number 4, as necessary for utilities such as electric, gas, and telephone that are needed to serve the permitted uses in the easement area or other properties located within the permit area for the Bethlehem landfill solid waste permit 10020. Again, they can construct these things required to run a landfill on the conserved land, so it's not really conserved. Number 5, to log the property as long as they have an approved forest management plan. Next slide, please. This was presented as being permanent easements on the properties, although there was no third-party agency identified and listed in the easement documents. In regard to the third-party right of enforcement, the grantor hereby names, and you insert the name of the government body, charitable corporation, charitable association, or charitable trust, which, although eligible to be a holder, is not a holder as a third party with the right to enforce this conservation easement, which right shall now not arise unless and until the recording of an acceptance of this right, and then you insert the name with the Northampton County Recorder of Deeds as required by 32 PS Section 5054C of the Conservation and Preservation Easement Act. Next slide. So let's look at these 10 properties that are the new properties that are conserved. We have one on Hayter Lane, which is 12.9 acres. The property has a home, outbuildings, driveways, etc. We do not include envelopes in our preserved properties, but they are all counting all of the acreage as conserved land. Okay, the next one. It is on Skyline Drive. It's 1.94 acres. The property has a large home and driveway. We do not include building envelopes in our preserved properties, but they are counting the full lot as conserved land. Next slide, please. Hayter Lane, 5.3 acres. The property has a large home, garage, driveway. We do not include building envelopes in our preserved properties, but they are all counting the full lot as conserved land. Next one, please. Sorry. Is that the next one? Okay. Then we have another one on Skyline Drive, 1.33 acres. The property has a home and driveway. We do not include building envelopes in our preserved properties, but they are counting the full lot as conserved land.
Are these recent pictures?
These are off the internet, off the Northampton County.
Do you know if those structures are still there?
I have no idea. I'm just going off what's on the county's website. But it's vacant land, and it's
Is it vacant, or is that house
No,
on
I'm
it?
just saying, if they're not, the houses aren't there, I don't
Why are you
know.
showing pictures of the houses if you don't know if they're there?
Can I finish my presentation?
Absolutely, it's riveting.
These were taken off the county's nc.pub, and I'm assuming that that's the current.
Have you looked at that property
No, I
lately?
did not go out and visit all the properties.
I'm just trying to ascertain whether that house is actually on that property today or not.
Yes, it is.
Who said that?
Right here.
Okay.
I know this for a fact.
You went out there and looked at it?
Last week.
Okay, just asking the question.
Thank you for that. Okay, so what's the next one, Stacy? Okay, Hayter Lane, 2 acres. The property has a large home, garage, driveway. We do not include building envelopes in our preserved properties, but they are counting the full lot as conserved land. Next slide, please. Skyline Drive, 11 acres. The property has a home, driveway. We do not include, and I'll just keep going. Next slide. What are we losing? We have the Bull Run Natural Resource Area. We see the radius that it covers. Next slide, and I do have pictures here. This is the natural heritage area along the south bank of the Lehigh River. It is roughly bounded by the Lehigh River on the north, Reddington Road on the east, Apple Butter Road on the south, and Bethlehem Landfill on the west. It has all kinds of gently sloping forested hillsides. This is coming from the, tells you, can you go back a slide, please? And go down. Oh, it's in the Natural Heritage Inventory of Lehigh and Northampton counties. And then the next page, please. And then it goes on to talk about the elements of concern for considerations with all the different special species and habitat disturbances. And then the next slide. It just talks about a lot of maintaining the current hydrologic regime is critical, and the cave entrances, it's all important environmental consideration that nobody addressed and nobody thought was important. So I prepared this to just get on the record of my opinion. Okay?
You prepared?
Yes.
Yeah, you prepared?
Okay, so now we have the financial. Okay, thank you. The information was presented at the August 30th meeting by Jason. Jason Bononis presented a slideshow. I couldn't hardly see it because of the angle where I was sitting. But anyway, he claimed. Excuse me?
I said you could have moved.
I could have, but I didn't. Okay, I knew I would be able to see it later. Jason claimed that if the landfill can expand, that the effect to each Lower Saucon household is an increase of $3,500. Well.
For a $500,000 house, right?
Can I finish my, can
I just want a clarification.
When I'm finished, you can ask. If all 4,035 households in Lower Saucon paid $3,500 more, that would be $14,122,500. That's almost $11.6 million more than we got from the landfill in 2022, based on the $2,558,245 landfill revenue, and that comes from page 54 of the 2022 LST audit report. Then Bononis said we need a paid fire department all of a sudden at a cost of $2.5 million a year. He said that would double the tax increase to $7,000 per year. That would add $28,245,000 in revenue. This is a scare tactic used by very terrible math. There is no reason anyone's tax bill would increase as he stated. Next slide, please. Several things wrong with that. He based this on Lower Saucon home sales amounts for July 2023. This is not a true reflection of all homes in the township. 2, taxes are based on county's assessed value, which is 50% of the value the county has determined for your property. They are not based on sales price, number 3. So the 7 mil tax bill of $3,500 is for a home that the county valued at $1 million, which would have an assessment value of $500,000. Again, a scare tactic using very terrible math. There's no reason anyone's tax bill would increase as he stated. Next slide, please. Talked about 1 mil for the school district taxes paid by the landfill to the district, which is approximately $400,000. Bononis said they would be a financial shortfall of 1 mil to the school district without the money paid to them by the Bethlehem landfill. Bethlehem landfill will still own the land even if they are no longer operating. Property taxes must still be paid on the property they own. They own numerous properties that are not currently being used for landfill, and taxes are paid on these properties. There would be no shortfall to the Saucon Valley School District. Next slide, please. What is the median assessed value houses in Lower Saucon? It is not $500,000. It is $111,050. This is based on the 2022 Lower Saucon property taxes collected, $2,303,164. from the 2022 Lower Saucon Audit Report, page 11, that averages out to $570.80 local tax paid for each home. The math, 2,303,164. 4,035 equals $570.80. Using our 5.14 mill rate, the average assessed value is $111,050. The math, 570.80 at the mill rate equals $111,050. This shows inaccuracy of the 500,000 median house value presented by Jason Bononis at the council meeting on August 30th, 2023. Next slide, please. So the revenue generated by our current taxes in Lower Saucon, not including landfill money, show that we can pay our bills without landfill money. You can see on the chart, and for the past, for 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, and it lists the total revenue for each of those years, the landfill revenue, the total revenue without landfill revenue, the total expenses, and the percentage. So, and these are all documented. I have printed out the pages from our audit report for all those years. It tells you the pages. And for 2018, the budget is funded by Lower Saucon residents at 91.7%. In 2019, 84.5%. 2020, 100%. 2021, 108%. 2022, 96.9%. Next, footnotes. A higher expense, I'm sorry, I'm talking too much. A, higher expenses due to paying off our debt. B, higher expenses due to unbudgeted $1 million paving project, extra legal fees. Okay, next slide, please. So 30% of Lower Saucon budget funded by the landfill. This information from August is misleading because residents may think that we'd have a 30% shortfall and would not be able to cover our budget. There is not a 30% shortfall. Using the financial information from the past 5 years, completed audit reports we see, and you can see, like I said, the numbers from the other slide. This averages 95.72% of Lower Saucon budget funded by Lower Saucon residents and non-landfill business revenue. This includes 2 years of paying off debt and last year's excessive unplanned spending. Next slide, please. Is that the end? Okay. Excuse me? Okay, can I have my slide thing back?
No, I want to reference those slides on the screen when I talk.
You want to what?
I want to reference your slides when I talk.
Go right ahead. Well, I'm not done with my report yet. Okay, so we have, let's see, I did the, oh, sorry, thank you. Okay, the other thing I want to mention is that, let's find my notes here. Tom, on 8/28, which was a Monday night, and on 8/30, which was our last council meeting, you kept asking me if I got a tree delivered. And you kept mentioning Rocky Vecito and about trees. And I told you I had no idea what you were talking about. Well, on 9 September, I'm glad the record will reflect that. On September 1st, I found a small Christmas tree on my patio, and if anyone wants to see a picture, there it is. And since you mentioned Rocky Vecito, and there was an application for a cell tower, and we discussed trees, I decided to call Kate Durso. We had a conversation. I asked that the tree be removed. And then I saw a text from Rocky, and it said, Tom gave me a tree after the last council meeting. I have been so busy between Rocky going to college and coaching and working that I didn't get a chance to drop it off. I just left it off at your back porch. Sorry I missed you. Well, I would like to go on record that I do not accept any gifts. It's in violation of the ethics code. And a gift from me. Oh my God, you're not getting it. So I'm glad you admitted that you gave me a gift, which is really in violation of the codes. So,
You invited him over for drinks at one time.
It's not in violation of the code.
It's a gift, isn't it?
It's a gift.
okay, so be sure to include that on your ethics
I
form when
will.
you fill it out
I
for
will.
for this year.
I will.
Okay, so let me
Priscilla,
see.
you-
Tree, DP, Library Committee.
All right, now I
Financial,
gotta address that.
Conservation.
Keep this up.
Okay, my report's finished, thank you. Thank you for your
Good.
time.
All right, so I
Thank you,
did- I did-
Stacy.
Are you done, Priscilla?
I did,
Okay.
yeah.
I am, I said I was.
All right, do you
Tom,
wanna
just one
Sure.
point I want to speak
Sure.
to. At the last council meeting, I had asked each of the council members, in light of, the litigation that's pending and the risk of the host fee coming into the township going away, to look at the budget and find where we can cut $2.6 million from the budget. I didn't hear anything from any council members tonight. I didn't hear anything from the public. We're not up to non-agenda yet. I looked at it and I don't have anything that could be cut. There's nothing in there that's discretionary of that magnitude that would make that dent. But that's all I wanted to add, Tom. I'll turn it
Okay.
over to you.
All right, as far as the tree, Priscilla was complaining that there were trees cut down. She complained to me, she complained to the township staff. So I bought her a tree to plant in her yard to someday, the little Priscilla, the tree will grow to cover any cell phone tower. And she'll get to look at a beautiful tree instead of a cell phone tower. So I was just trying to be nice. Yeah. So then let's go to this. Number 2 here, taxes are based on county's assessed value, which is 50% of the value of the county's determined in the property. That's true. But this part, they are not based on sales price. That's wrong. When people come and get their property assessed or reassessed, that's actually on the form. They have to fill out. They have to put their at least 3 comparable sales, and then the assessed value is based on that. So the sale price is considered. It's mandatory in the form, and it is considered. It is considered. So can you go to the next one?
You're saying when somebody appeals their
This is my
assessment?
comment. Can you go to the next slide, please? Go to the next slide. Okay, yeah. All right, what is this one? Okay, the shortfall, $1 million. Well, it says the Bethlehem landfill will still own land, and even though they're no longer operating, property taxes must still be paid on that property they own. Now, that's correct, but the property is currently paying over $400,000 in school taxes. Now, if it's a closed landfill, they're going to go in there and get that property reassessed, as is their right. They're no longer operating a business on that property, and the assessment would be quite lower than that. Now, if they expand the landfill, that property will also be reassessed, the part that's being expanded. And those taxes will most likely be increased because of what they're doing with the land instead of it being, conserved.
Which taxes? The school taxes?
All taxes.
No,
School,
you can
county,
talk, but I
and,
can't. That's speculative,
School,
Tom.
county, and school, county, and township taxes. This is not accurate. The taxes would change because when property gets reassessed, the taxes change, and they can either go up or they can go down. But when the use is different, they change. All right, now fire services. We've had a few meetings, but we've been delayed with a report to council. They had to plan a funeral for one of their members, obviously, and are still gathering some information. But hopefully, we'll have something in October, the 4th or something. Library numbers. 230 family reimbursements are up to for $9,200. 85 individual reimbursements for $1,700. It's a total of $10,900 in reimbursements for cards. Again, out of our 11,000 or so residents, 11,500 residents, whatever it is, we have 230 families that got library cards and 85 individuals that got library cards so far this year. And they can still get them, so hopefully they will. The pools are finally closed. The final numbers were 82 pool reimbursements for the Hellertown pool, 10 youth, 6 adult, 32 senior, 34 family. Southern Lehigh pool had 12, 6 families, 5 seniors, and one youth. The Hellertown pool opened on June 10th of 2023. and closed at around August 18th, so they didn't make it to Labor Day again this year. They were closed June 14th, July 9th, August 5th, August 6th, August 10th. They had to close early, June 12th, June 22nd, June 23rd, June 25th, July 7th. So they closed early 5 days, and they completely closed all day for 6 days. The 5th and 6th was when they apparently got rid of the YMCA or whoever was managing it to it, and they brought Coach K, Ed Klosky, back in to run it, and they needed 2 days for him to, I guess, retrain the staff. But the Southern Lehigh Pool was only closed for weather-related issues this year, and was open from Memorial Day through Labor Day. So, and had a swim team. So, let me see, was there anything else? I think that's it.
Okay, thanks, Tom. All right, next is solicitor report.
I don't have anything additional.
Okay, engineer? Nothing? All right, we're up to public comment, non-agenda items, residents and taxpayers only, 3-minute time limit. First is Bob Blasco. Bob Blasco.
At a recent meeting, Jason Bononis stated that at the last quarterly meeting of the landfill, there were fewer complaints. He said this to attest to the credibility of the landfill. I think rather it proves the point that more and more people are not complaining because they're realizing just how useless complaining to the DEP is. All you get is a dog and pony show, a lot of apologies, and we don't have the authority. You want some proof? Well, they had asked, the landfill had asked for an 80-foot high wall. They've been granted a permit for a 117-foot high wall. It will be the length of over 3/5 of a mile. One of the main reasons stated for this was that the landfill obeys the regulations. I wonder how that would work for a mass murderer. But Your Honor, there were 1,000 people there. I only knocked off 250, well, give or take. I obeyed the law for the most part. Yeah, that would go over real well. Bethlehem Wastewater Treatment Facility has issued a permission to dump wastewater directly into the Saucon and the Lehigh. When they do, and this is if they get an occurrence of 2 inches of rain or more, and when they do, they've also issued a warning to stay away from those 2 effluent release points for at least 48 hours. Local members of local water recovery teams will not even go into the Lehigh anymore without a dry suit to protect themselves. That's a fact. I've talked to some of them. Yes, the main reason they gave it to them. And if they're worried, as it says, that they issued this so that because they're worried about flooding at the facility, I've got a couple questions there. If they're so worried, why not expand the facilities? And if you say, well, they are, if the DEP is so on top of this, why weren't the facilities already expanded? And if they're worried about the Saucon flooding the facility, why not build a dike around it? There's an entire town in central Pennsylvania named Howard. They built a dike around the entire town. But if this is the problem here, of course, that would cost too much money to build it around just a facility. I could go on, but I've only got 3 minutes. Karochi, you want to call me selfish? You have no idea, none whatsoever of what I give to charity. And if you're feeling so benevolent, tell the landfill to come and sit in your backyard. You feel so benevolent.
All right, Mr. Blasco, your time's up. If you could wrap up your thoughts,
Well,
please.
yeah, except for one thing. You sat there and cried like a baby that somebody stole his nookie when your address was posted up there. I had nothing to do with that, but you posted mine and encouraged people to show up. I got news for you. I'm glad you did. You know why? Nobody backed you up. Not one person showed up.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next is Ginger Petrie.
My name's Ginger Petrie. I left the August 30th meeting early because of already knowing the outcome. I was so nauseated I didn't want to vomit in front of anyone.
Us too.
Yes, sir, including you. I do want to express my surprise that you called out the names and addresses of the 8 of us in the lawsuit. This lawsuit is trying to save a beautiful mountain, as well as our property values. We were not responsible for placing the easements, but we are trying to keep them. If we succeed in saving the mountain, you announced that the 8 of us need to help supplement the budget and directed people to contact us. I would think that since the township councils before you were saving and planning on the landfill maxing out, you would have already figured out this budget on your own. I think it's despicable that you admit that the landfill owns you. We live in America, the land of freedom. And you are dictated and controlled by a company that is from Texas. On a positive note, giving my name and address out on YouTube, I've had 8 people stop in to my farm and want to help save the beautiful mountain that you are okay with destroying. So my farm comes before Bob's, so that's why they've been at my farm. Plus, you can see it. Now, as far as what you just did to me, Mr. Bononis, I don't care if I have half a second left. I think that you had absolutely no right to discuss my finances or what I've made on any properties. And I have always been proud of this township. That's why I'm in open space. And it wasn't a lot of money in the fact that it was a lot of acreage. It was $3,000 per acre in order to keep from having someone come in and build homes on it. I'm in open space because I'm proud of the beauty of the property. And I'm also proud of my accomplishments when I did not grow up with a silver spoon. And I should not have to say that to any of you, because if any of you have ever come to my farm, you would know just how hard I work on horses and tractors and shoveling horse manure. So I really resent what you just did to me. I would never think of doing something like that to you. And I am proud of what I've done. And I should come back here with a report of what the township fees were for me to do that development. Because maybe then it would have a little more equality, beside the fact, when you get a check like that, you give 1/3 back to the government. And that's so that we have a good country. And I'm proud of it. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Now,
Next
all right,
is,
just a clarification. All of the numbers you read, the property, the parcel, it's all public information.
that is correct.
Correct.
That is correct. And Sandy, when you put your property into open space, you didn't take any money for it, right?
It was technically,
Your mom?
it was my mother.
Right.
Wait, my mother did it, but I helped her process the whole situation. And I was, so it's something that I brought to her attention. She wanted to do it because she loved the land. So, but no.
You were the heir?
I was the heir, yes.
Okay.
Some people do it because they love the land.
Yeah, and she did. She loved living there. It was really important to her. So we just did it to make her happy.
Others put $500,000.
All right, next is Miss Laura Ray. Miss Laura Ray.
Yeah, it's hard to know where to start with all this. I will say, once again, you're demonizing a resident who participated in our open space program. Why don't you call up all the people that have been in that program and one by one say how awful they are for putting their properties in open space and taking money to sell the development rights. I would say Sandy's property probably had very little development rights because they're landlocked and you have to cross through a floodplain to access them. So, you know, I don't know what that value was, but it wasn't like a multi-million-dollar donation. It should be a total embarrassment to the council to accept the land that you say is being conserved by the Bethlehem landfill. That is not conservation land. I also want to, again, point out and ask about this AV system that we paid $40,000 for. It makes no sense that we only video our council meetings here. There was a comment before that Parks and Rec doesn't always meet here, so that's why we don't use it. That doesn't make any sense. Planning is here, EAC is here, zoning is here. All those meetings should be using the system that we paid $40,000 for so residents can see what goes on. And finally, I'll just close out with how egregious all your actions are. I think democracy truly takes a beating and dies in Lower Saucon Township. The lack of respect for your volunteers serving on the boards, especially on the EAC board, is sickening.
Okay, thank you. Next is Victoria Optoff Cordero. Victoria Optoff Cordero.
Good evening. I'm taking a moment of my 3-minute time to just reflect on what just occurred in the council chambers. And I think, number one, to punish people for putting in their property in open space, something that our taxpayers had voted in a referendum for 15 years, to pay extra taxes to make sure that our township remained the beautiful, scenic, rural, agricultural makeup that it is, and to preserve the very environmentally sensitive and special features that make this township one of the best places to live. And to then stand here or sit there and degrade those people. You are shaming 15 years of our Lower Saucon Township taxpayers for voting for open space. If you are then going to shame anybody who sells development rights, and in order to conserve your property legally, you have to sell your development rights. Otherwise, the conservation easement is not valid. But to get into the legalese is one thing. But to sit here and say to our residents that, yeah, we have a beautiful open space program, we have an EAC. In fact, this council wanted to take the authority of the grading of open space properties out of the EAC and created another group that was just specifically to grade the open space properties. I mean, maybe we should ask Link to take the $11 million that we're sitting on to preserve and conserve land and find someplace else to give it to. Because clearly our council does not appreciate what our residents have asked for. The other thing I want to say in the last minute is back to democracy. We have one developer in our township, maybe two, that like to spend a lot of money on our elections to make sure that their interests are protected. And after that happens, there is a course of conduct by which different independent bodies that are not supposed to be influenced by the one or two people on council, but are supposed to be made up of our residents, our people in our township. It's not supposed to be a partisan thing. It's not supposed to be who's my friend and who's not my friend. It's based upon people's credentials. And to watch all of the years of EAC's history in making sure that they honored their traditions, just go out the window because certain people who have appointed themselves to be on that committee,
ma'am, your time's up. I need to
decide
wrap up
different
your
things.
comments, please.
I vote democracy.
Okay, thank you. Next is Dave Boulan. Dave Boulan.
Dave Boulan, 2023 Alice Drive. Have no idea where I'm going here after all that haranguing, the politics. Somebody talked about being disgusted. Well, that'd be me. I'll tell you, I think you ought to put the clock on the council members who get up here and drone on and show all sorts of data that's incomprehensible to them and say, yeah, I prepared that. I doubt it. I can see that that person doesn't even have the ability to understand simple mathematics when it comes down to the engineering report, can't decipher about what this means in terms of whether it's a federal or state regulation, or where the feds supersede. Gosh, anybody that got a high school education knows that. All right, enough of that. Spent several hours doing this today. Yeah, my time. No, I'm not running for the board. By the way, I just want to make a note that Edward Buscala, who's the PE on the stink pot sewage treatment plant, which you can't even drive by without almost passing out, yeah, and dumps the sewage into the river, and by God, nobody here said anything about it, including people that clearly know, meaning a specific council person, all right? So, deadly fecal into the river. Oh, it's in Bethlehem, she tells us. I'm sorry, I'm adjusting the chair.
So, sir, you have the floor. Folks in the crowd, please don't interrupt Mr. Bland. You didn't interrupt anybody, so please proceed. I'll give you some
No, I
more
didn't,
time.
but that's part of the mob's work here. All right, just try to hide the stench, hide the pollution. Why? Politics. Hey, guess who Lisa Buscala is married to? Yep, we're not touching them, okay? We're gonna go after council members that may not be the same party, although one of them is the ballpark. Hey, let's take all those kids and turn them out on the street. We don't need a ballpark. And no, it's, by God, this is something I made up earlier. I haven't talked to any of these guys. And the bottom line, it's not 4 million. You talk about using numbers to lie. Boy, there's a huge lie. It's 1.8 million. The bulk being paid by other entities, not us. How? Gee, isn't that funny? My notes here says, yeah, rumor. Hal's going broke. I guess they are. I guess I just found that out here. Yep. How many people really want the Hal Library? Well, we just found out 10,000 worth, not 150. Guess what? That's no different than when I first came to the first council meeting and they shoved the thing under Link's nose and said, okay, council, sign off. And that man said, has anybody here seen it? And they said, no. Finally, it's politics. And when this all goes, Priscilla, hopefully you will too.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bland. I think that concludes the public comment non-agenda items. With that said, I will make a motion to adjourn.
I will second it. Aye.
Great meeting. All right, thank you.
Those are yours if you want to look at them.